I don't hate my life right now, but I don't love it either. You know what I mean? I'm just a basic girl. I love fall. So that is quite unfortunate. Hello and welcome to the Faded Wildflower Crochet. My name is Rachel, and today is a very special edition of Will It On Me, which is a series on my channel where we test out different types of yarn and see if they work for amigurumi. So the yarn we are going to be trying today is this Glow in the Dark yarn by Lion Brand. I have the chenille version and then just the regular version. We are going to be trying out both of them today to see how they are to work with and to see, do they actually really glow in the dark? The pattern that we are going to be working from is this little ghost puppy, which is my own design. You can find this in my Etsy shop. And thank you to those of you who have been buying my ghost puppy pattern. I know I've had it in the background of some of my videos, and I really appreciate those of you who have been buying it and like posting on Instagram. It is so exciting to see you guys make my designs. But anyways, we are going to be making two little ghost puppies today. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at this yarn. But before that, I have some exciting news. I now have a Patreon. And if you want to hear more about that, you can wait till the end of the video to find out what it's like to join my Patreon and how you can make your own pillow pocket puppy. Okay, here is a closer look at these yarns. Like I said, I did get the just normal worsted weight version and then the chenille version. And I believe I paid about $6.50 or something like that a piece for these yarns. They are available in a few different places. I just got mine on Amazon. And $6.50 is not that expensive for yarn. However, you only get, this one is 71 yards. And then this one is only 32 yards. So you really don't get a ton of yarn for that price. So I'm sure glow in the dark yarn is just more expensive to make, so they have to charge more for it. I'm not really sure, but I am thankful that we're only doing small projects today, because if you had to do a big project in this yarn, you would have to buy quite a bit of it, and it would get quite expensive. So like I said, this one is a size 4 medium, 71 yards, and then this one is a size 6 bulky, and it is 32 yards. And they both seem a little bit thinner than what they're claiming. I know sometimes sizes for yarns are a little bit all over the place. I definitely feel like this one is a bit smaller than a 4 and this one is a bit smaller than a 6. But, you know, we'll judge that for ourselves once we get started on this. But I am noticing off the bat that this one feels pretty soft. It almost has like a cottony-like feel to it, but it is polyester. But it almost feels like cotton. It's kind of got that soft texture, but has a little bit of sturdiness to it that you can feel. Now, this chenille one, I have to say, feels a little rough. It feels a little stiff. It does not really feel very soft just in the skein itself, which does make me a little bit worried. So we will have to see how that goes. But I think we are just going to go ahead and start off with this worsted weight one. And then we'll just go from there. So actually, before we get started, I did want to show that each of these yarns on the label, it comes with a little QR code. And you can scan that and it will tell you more about the yarn. And it will tell you basically that you are supposed to charge up your items in direct light. And the longer you charge them, the longer that glow will last. So we will get to that after we finished our ghost puppies. But I did want to say that I kind of like that feature that it has just right there on the label. That way you can look it up and find out how to use it. So anyways, without further ado, let's actually get to the crocheting. Here's how far I've gotten, which is the width of our ghost puppy is going to be a tiny little guy since I made my pattern in chenille yarn, like bulky chenille yarn. It's quite a bit bigger, but this is going to be a tiny little ghost puppy. And you can see that there is a little bit of gaps here and there. My tension is definitely not perfect. As I mentioned, just feeling the skein, it feels kind of like a cotton yarn, if you know what I'm saying. It has like a little bit of a softness, a little bit of a stiffness to it. And that is definitely translating over to working with it. It just has like a little bit of a stiffness to it as you're working with it. It doesn't just glide nicely on the hook. Now I am using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I probably could go up a hook size, but my 3.5 millimeter crochet hook is just missing my clover one anyway. Do I have other kinds of crochet hooks? Yes, but do I want to use anything other than my clover hooks? No. But anyways, I cannot find that 3.5 millimeter crochet hook anywhere. So I'm using this 3.25, and it could be that this hook size is a little bit too small. And if I went up a hook size, that would help a little bit. I'm not really sure, but it's really not bad overall. Like, it's not enough that I feel like I really need to use a bigger hook. But I do also kind of feel like if I used a bigger hook, then there would be more gaps. And I always say this, but I like my stitches nice and tight and even. I don't want any stuffing coming out, anything like that. So I'm just going to keep going with the 3.25 hook. It's, not enough that it's going to bother me. But, like I said, it is a little bit stiff, not the easiest to work with, but definitely not the worst. It really just reminds me kind of like the peaches and cream type of yarn, like that stiffer kind of cotton feel to it. That's what it feels like. I know it's not cotton, but that's what it feels like to work with. It's like, I'm going to tolerate it, but is it my favorite so far? No. So I actually think that I am going to go ahead and get this far on the other one just to switch it up a little bit and see what it's like working with our chenille yarn and what size hook we're going to be using and everything like that. So let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've gotten this far on our chenille yarn. And I don't know if you can tell on camera, there are like quite a few gaps in here. It is really hard to get your tension right on this yarn. It's just pretty stiff and it's kind of hard to explain. I don't think I've ever worked with a chenille yarn that was as stiff as this. I don't really know what the point of making a chenille yarn if you're not going to make it soft. It's not soft, but to me, what I keep thinking of is a pipe cleaner. Like, it feels like a pipe cleaner. Do you know what I mean? It's got that like kind of like stiff fuzziness to it. Like there's a fuzziness to it, but it's not like cuddly. I don't know. Does that make sense? I'm sure that they made a chenille version of this yarn just because a lot of people like to work with chenille yarn and they're trying to like appeal to the crowd that likes to work with chenille yarn. But we like to work with chenille yarns because they're soft and like cuddly in the end. Like, I don't know. This just does not really feel like cuddly. I will say that just to give this yarn some credit, that I do like the weight of it. I feel like it is thicker than I thought it was going to be because it is classified as a bulky weight yarn. And just from looking at it in the skein, I was like, that doesn't look bulky weight, but like, look at the difference between these two. And that's the same amount of stitches. So it is quite a bit thicker than you would think, but it is just like really stiff. Like, it's kind of hard to get your tension right. Like I said, it's kind of hard to, again, it just doesn't glide nicely. I will say that it just doesn't glide nicely on the hook. Is it the worst thing I've ever worked with? Like, no. After working with that terrible t-shirt yarn and other yarns that I've worked with, like it's not the worst thing ever, but it's just not the best either. Like, I don't hate my life right now, but I don't love it either. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I think I'm going to just continue on with this one just to kind of get it out of the way. I just finished this one first. I don't really know what colors I'm going to choose for the puppy's little face, but we'll decide that in a little bit. And I do just want to kind of get this one out of the way. I will say also that it's kind of hard to see your stitches if you can tell that. Like, they kind of get lost a little bit in there, kind of similar to like if you work with a fuzzy yarn, how it's hard to see your stitches. It's not quite as bad as that. It's like, it's really, this yarn is like, It's low tier for me right now, but it's not the worst. You know? Okay. I'm just going to continue on with this and I'll check in with you guys in a little bit. So as I am working on this and you can see me struggling with these stitches, I wanted to ask you guys once again for recommendations because you guys really came through for me when I was asking for recommendations for TV shows. So now I need recommendations for podcasts. So yeah, I really need some recommendations if you guys have them. I do really like true crime. I really am into lately though, kind of more of the where people share their stories about like bad experiences in dating. I really like Dating Detectives. If you guys listen to that one, okay. So I'm going to say this. I used to really like the podcast Something Was Wrong, where they just like talk about, bad experiences in dating or like friendships or whatever, like things that went wrong. But I feel like they've gone downhill lately. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like they've really dragged out their seasons. And it's like, to me, that feels like it just means that they want to make more money because they get more ads like with each episode that they do. I don't know. That could be me being cynical, but I do feel like it's kind of gone downhill a little bit. What is that other show called? Is This Really Happening? Or This Is Really Happening? I like that one. I also kind of just like podcasts where it's two friends talking about what's going on. I do like there to be at least some structure, like where they're talking about a topic, like obviously the Do We Know Them podcast, but I always watch that one on YouTube. I'm kind of looking for more audio-based suggestions. But my favorite podcast that I used to listen to every single week is actually No More. They disbanded last year. One of the hosts just kind of wanted more time with her kid. And, it was totally understandable, but it was called Let's Go to Court. Did anybody listen to that show? I still miss it so much. So if you have any recommendations like that, where it was two best friends and they had really good chemistry with each other because they've been best friends forever. And they would tell each other like true crime stories. And it sounds kind of weird that it's like true crime comedy, but it is. It was like true crime comedy. They would kind of tell the story, but in a like lighthearted way. I mean, they took the part seriously that they needed to take seriously, but they would also like talk about their lives and funny things that were happening and stuff. I loved that podcast so much. I've listened to every single episode. They actually covered a case that happened in my hometown, which was pretty wild. Anyways, so if you have any recommendations I know that was like not really a lot of information, but just podcasts in general. I also like the like more structured ones that are like serialized kind of podcasts. So if you have any recommendations on podcasts, please let me know because I am just at a point where I'm all caught up. So let me know what you guys are listening to. Do you listen to podcasts? I have been kind of switching it up between podcasts and audiobooks. I'm actually listening to the second book right now in the Crochet Mystery series. So I'm going to be covering that soon. So anyway, I think I'm going to go get cozy on my couch. I'm going to like light some candles, set the fall mood a little bit. As I'm filming this, it's actually September 11th, which is my birthday. And I know it's the worst birthday of all time, but can't choose your birthday. But it's actually, I think the high is in the 90s still today, but at least the lows are getting lower. So it feels more like fall. And I love that. And, we've already got some leaves starting to fall and, it's fall in my heart. Anyway, this is my first fall as a crochet YouTuber. And so I'm so into it. We're going to be doing so many fun fall things on the channel. I'm just a basic girl. I love fall. It's my favorite season. So I think I'm going to go set the fall mood. I'm going to go light a candle, go get cozy on my couch, and we're going to keep working on this. I feel like I've not gotten very far. It's going to take me a while. Into a problem, you guys. This is how far I've gotten on my ghost puppy, and I only have this much yarn left, which is not going to be enough to finish the whole pattern of the ghost puppy. So as much as I don't want to, I am going to have to take this out and start over, and I think just make a freehand smaller ghost puppy, which is unfortunate. I really just didn't think to check how many yards were in the skein, and I have a really hard time being able to predict how many yards I need for a pattern. I should probably pay better attention to that and maybe even like note that on my patterns, how many yards of yarn it takes to complete. So I am just going to take this out. I'm a little bit worried we're going to see how this frogs. It is so stiff. Okay. So it's not like pulling apart or anything like that. It's not shedding. So that's good. That's a good sign. But man, I'm so disappointed. I really didn't want to have to start over on this, but it is what it is. So could you just hear my stomach growl? I'm not sure if the mic picked that up, but I think it's time for some lunch. I'm going to go eat some soup actually to continue with our fall-like day, and I will check in with you guys later. Just kidding. I'm back sooner than expected. As I was frogging this, as you can see, it completely broke. Just snapped. So that is quite unfortunate. I'm going to try to frog this a little bit more gently and be able to salvage as much of this as I can. But it is a little bit harder to frog than I originally thought. So I think I'm going to change the plan entirely. I got this far on my frogging and I was thinking, this kind of looks like the top of a mushroom. So what if I turn this into a mushroom and kind of do the reverse colors that I usually do? I usually do a red mushroom with white spots. But what if instead we do a white mushroom with red spots, and then I just go ahead and do the bottom part white as well, and it will look kind of just like a white and red mushroom in the day, and then at night it could glow. I don't know. I think since this is kind of the right size for that, and I know I'll have enough yarn for the mushroom as opposed to the ghost puppy, I think we are just going to change the plans, and that way I don't have to completely start over. So I am going to do that after I eat because my stomach is still growling. Okay, so I finished the top of the mushroom there, and then this is the bottom. I ran out of yarn. This is it. This is all the yarn that I have. So the proportions are going to be like a little bit off, but that's okay. So I'm trying to decide. I kind of might like the way it looks just white with no spots on it. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have this red loon arm yarn. I don't know. I do think that that's going to look good. Definitely when it's not glowing and it's just sitting there on the shelf, like it'll probably look better to have some spots. So I'm going to do the spots in red and then do the like underneath side of the mushroom as well in red and add the little eyes. And then this one will be done. So I am a bit disappointed that I didn't have enough to do a ghost puppy with this yarn, but I am just going to put this one aside for now and go ahead and work on the other glow-in-the-dark yarn and actually make a ghost puppy this time. I definitely think I'm going to have enough to be able to make the full ghost puppy. So we are at least getting one out of this. I am a little bit disappointed that we're not getting two. But yeah, let's go ahead and work on that one, and I'll check in with you guys in a little bit. Okay, I finished the ghost part of the ghost puppy. I think it looks pretty good. It's definitely a relief to be working with after working with the chenille version. That is just so much stiffer, so much harder to work with. This one is a breeze in comparison. and I didn't have any splitting, anything like that. It really was like pretty smooth sailing once I got the hang of it. So I am going to go add in all the details for this little ghost puppy and for the mushroom. And then I will check in with you guys in a little bit. Okay, I finished up both of the plushies. I have them here. So the next step is to get them all charged up. And I think the easiest way is just to go set them outside in the sun and just let them charge up for the rest of the day. And then when it's nighttime, we will see what they look all glowed up in the dark. So that is the next step. I'm really, really excited about this part. I have to wait several hours. For you guys, it's going to be like 1 second. Okay, here they both are, and I think that they turned out pretty darn cute. And as you could see from the video, they did glow. But my plan to just set them out in the sun and then wait for it to turn dark and expecting them to just glow, that plan turned out to be pretty flawed, because what happened was they sat out in the sun for a while. They did charge because I did peek at them. I took them inside and wanted to see if they were glowing, and they were. So I set them back outside. But then by the time it was nighttime and I went to go check on them, they weren't glowing. And I think that's just because as the sun was setting and it was taking a long time getting dimmer, they kind of lost their charge. And so by the time it was all the way dark, they weren't glowing anymore. So what I did end up doing for the video was setting them under a lamp for only about like 20 or 30 minutes, something like that. And then I set them outside and I shot the video that you saw. And I feel like the video actually makes them look a little bit brighter than they even did in real life. But the charge only lasted, I want to say, like 5 minutes. It did not last long at all. So that got me really curious, and I decided to do some experimenting. So I did leave them under that same lamp for about 3 hours. And then I took them into my closet and I took a photo. But again, the photo does make it look a little bit brighter than it was. It's about the same level of brightness that it was in the video, but it did last longer, but still probably only like 15 minutes, something like that. The charge did still not last that long at all. And then I decided to try them out in the sunlight, and I put them out in the sunlight for really only like an hour, because that's all the time that I had, because I wanted to film this video today. So I let them sit outside for an hour, and then I put them inside in the dark, and the charge only lasted, again, maybe like 20 minutes this time, a little bit longer than they did under the lamp, but not that much. Maybe only about 30 minutes, like I said. So the charging does not really last very long, at least in my very limited experience. So I did go and look online at some reviews and just for some other people that have tried this yarn and their experiences. And someone was suggesting that they use a UV light to charge up their items. So specifically what they were saying is they use their UV like flashlight to charge up their hat that has like a stripe of the glow in the dark. So they'll charge it all up, and then they can go out for a walk in the pitch dark and their hat will light up. So it does seem like maybe that is your best bet if you're wanting to be able to charge something up and then immediately use it outside. but I will have to take their word for it because I don't own a UV lamp and I'm not going to buy one to try them out with my glow-in-the-dark guys here. Maybe one day that would be kind of a fun experiment. So for now, I'll just have to take that person's word for it that a UV lamp might be the best way to charge these up. If you guys have this yarn, what is the way that you charge it? Because I feel like that is the most frustrating part of this whole experience for me. So let's just do a really quick pros and cons for this yarn because you probably kind of already know my opinions, but let's do both of them together first and then we'll kind of judge them separately. So the pros for both of them together, the first pro is that they do technically work. They do technically glow. The second pro is that these are very accessible yarns. You can find them in quite a few different places, like I said, on Amazon, in person at Joann. There are quite a few places that you can find this. It's definitely the most accessible glow-in-the-dark yarn that I could find. Now, one kind of like neutral and not really a pro or a con is that all of the colors that you can find, which is not that many, I think they each only come in like 3 or 4 different colors, but the glow for all of the colors, no matter what color you get, the glow is going to be green, which may be kind of self-explanatory because most glow-in-the-dark things do glow up green, but some people may not know and they may buy, like I know they make this yarn in purple and they may think that it's going to glow purple, but it doesn't glow purple. It will always glow green no matter what color you buy. To me, that doesn't really bother me, so I'm putting it in the neutral category, but that is something to consider. Now, the cons for both of them together, as I already kind of referenced, is that you really do not get much yardage, especially for the price. So if you're paying $6.50 for yarn, and then if you're having to pay shipping, you have to think about that as well. And then you only get these tiny little things of yarns. That is definitely something to consider, especially if you aren't making an amigurumi, or even if you are and you want to make something bigger than this. You would have to buy 2 skeins of this yarn. So you would have to buy $12, $13 worth of yarn to make a plushie that's, even this size. So that's definitely something to consider. Now, the second con that applies to both of them is that I could not get these to last very long. And like I said, maybe I was doing something wrong. Maybe they only really work with a UV light. I'm not really sure, but it seems like the glow really only lasts you like 30 minutes. And if that's all you need it for, then that's fine. But I was really expecting to be able to charge them and for them to last much longer. Now let's talk about pros and cons for just the chenille yarn. So the pros for me is that it is a pretty good weight. I feel like when I just looked at it in the skein, I thought it was going to be a lot thinner. But once you work it up, it is a similar size to other bulky yarns in my collection. Now, the cons for this chenille yarn is that it is way too stiff. It was really hard to work with. It was really hard to get my tension right. And the second con is that it's just really not that soft. If you're expecting it to be as soft as something like a velvet yarn or a regular chenille yarn, unfortunately, it's not. It's not terrible. It's not the worst thing I've ever felt. It's not offensive in any way. It's just not as soft as I would expect a chenille yarn to be. Editing Rachel here to say that I forgot to mention during the cons for the chenille yarn that it did break on me that one time when I was frogging. It didn't break any other time, like when I was sewing or anything like that, but it did break one time frogging. So that is something to keep in mind. I don't know if it was just a fluke or if I was pulling too hard, but it did break that one time for me. So I don't know. So now let's talk about pros and cons for just the regular yarn. The first pro for me is that once you get the hang of it, it's a pretty easy yarn to work with. It's very similar to cotton in my experience. And so if you like working with cotton yarn, you're probably going to like this. I do think the end result looks pretty darn good. So that is definitely a pro for me. Now, the only con that I have for this yarn is that I feel like it's a bit smaller than a 4 weight, at least in my experience. I feel like it's kind of somewhere between a 4 and a 3. So if you are planning on using this yarn and you're going to match it with other yarns in your collection, be sure to know that this is a lot smaller than your average size 4 yarn. So will the Lion Brand glow-in-the-dark yarn Ami? Yes, it definitely will Ami. And they both turned out pretty darn cute, despite this one being a little bit hard to work with. But will I be repurchasing? Probably not. To me, it's not really worth the price that you pay. I would possibly repurchase this yarn if I had something specific in mind, and maybe I will buy a UV flashlight and see if that really helps charge it up. Because I do think it would be... Lily is sighing. She's ready for me to be done filming for the day. I do feel like it could be really fun to, like I mentioned earlier, have like a hat or a headband or something like that and be able to charge it up. And then you can go out for a walk and you're going to, be glowed up, or like to even put it for like an accessory. I was thinking about Lily. When we go for a walk, if we're going in the evening, it can kind of serve as like a little bit of a reflector so you can see that your dog is there, like a little glow-in-the-dark collar for a dog. How cute would that be? But as of right now, since it doesn't really last longer than 30 minutes, I'm not sure that it's worth it. You'll have to let me know what you thought about today's video. Have you tried glow-in-the-dark yarn? Are you going to try it in the future? Did you have better luck with it than me about getting it to glow longer? Let me know. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about my Patreon and what it is like over there. Every month, I am planning on releasing both a pattern that is exclusive to Patreon and a video that is also exclusive to Patreon. It is only $5 a month and you get both of those things. Right now, I only have the one tier. I may be having more tiers in the future as more people join and there are just more requests and that kind of thing. But for now, one video and one pattern per month. So this month, the pattern is this cute little pocket pillow pup. So it is a huge squishy pillow that has a pocket that you can put your phone or the remote or something like that. So I have the full pattern of how to make this guy. And then the video for this month is me designing this product. So I designed it starting with this one that is supposed to look like Lily, of course. And you can watch me walk through the process of what it was like to design this product. And it's a really fun, chatty video. So if you need some extra content to watch, I got you. And I just really appreciate your interest in my Patreon and for supporting me. And if you don't have the funds right now to support me on Patreon, I totally understand. I really appreciate you being here on YouTube and supporting me. Making content like this and being able to earn a little extra money is honestly a dream, you guys. And so I really just appreciate you guys being a part of that in any sort of way. Even just a like or a comment or a share really means a lot to me. But if you are interested in joining my Patreon, I will have that link down below. If you did like today's video, be sure to hit the like button. You can subscribe, stick around. Let me know what other kind of videos you want to see next. You can follow me on Instagram, which is the Faded Wildflower. You can check out my Etsy shop where I sell patterns as well as custom plushies. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.